1270. Kelly, normally we have a guest in the studio today, but, it's kind of hard to wrangle up a guest on a holiday.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming in as well.
Well, thank you.
And I thought that what we do today is kind of talk about something that you and I know about, and that's going to be social media.
Yes.
And really from the angle of Pride of Dakota members and small businesses in general. So some of the things we're going to talk about is what's the difference between traditional and social media. And people who have heard me talk about this have heard me talk about it for years and years.
Love your definition of social media, and it's just a wonderful explanation. So stay tuned to hear about it.
Oh, thank you. So, and I've said the same thing for years, and the reason is because it doesn't change. I mean, it is not the same. Nothing has changed in this social media.
Right.
So we want to make sure that people understand that. And so we're going to talk about what is social media. We're going to talk about 3 critical questions that you need to ask when planning out an online strategy. So there's a lot of people that are freaked out. I get a lot of calls and questions from Pride of Dakota members, other small businesses, and they still, even though social media has been around for a while, they're still overwhelmed.
Right. And it really, it's they're wonderful tools to use. And that's just it. I mean, so many of our companies, our member companies, they are just one-man shows, really. And so it seems like, this whole big other thing that they're having to take on, but it's really actually, once you get a handle on things and you really figure out the purpose of it for your business, it is super quick and easy, and it's a very cost-effective, great way to get your word out.
Yeah, and I just think it's one of those necessary things. I mean, I tell people all the time that, social media is not going to save you time or money. It's just not. It's work. It's hard work. But it works as long as you do it and as long as you're willing to put it in. And we'll talk about some Pride of Dakota members that I think are doing a good job with that, and kind of, because then I always learn by going and watching other people. So we'll talk about the 3 critical questions. We'll talk about why you must have a blog in your business today. In fact, Jim's over here updating the SuperTalk 1270 blog, and he's using WordPress as we speak. So he's a multitasking machine.
He is.
But I mean, it is. It's truly one of the most important things, and we'll talk about why that is. And then also why you should consider a podcast, an audio podcast specifically. There are definitely reasons. I mean, I want you just even to think of the fact that if you're listening to this, you're listening to an audio medium right now.
Right. And for so many people out there that probably don't know what a podcast is, would you want to just kind of give a brief description of it? Yeah,
a podcast is basically anytime you take audio and you stick it on your website and then you encapsulate it in what's called an RSS feed. And we'll talk about what that is when we get into that section. But it's basically allowing people to listen to like a little radio show or a 3 to 5 minute little segment of audio where you're explaining your products and stuff. So we're going to talk about why I think it's critical that you create an audio podcast even in the next 90 days.
Awesome.
Okay. So that, and then we'll also what you need to know about Facebook. So there's some important things. A lot of people say I'm on Facebook, but I don't know what to say next, or I'm not getting the people to click or like. There's some things that we're going to talk about that are critical about Facebook. And then why you should consider Twitter. All right.
Yes.
A little rhyme there. Consider Twitter, because a lot of people are freaked out by this tool. So we'll talk a little about if time is permitting. I mean, this will go very quickly. And then finally, we'll talk about mobile if we have time left, and why that is absolutely critical. So
lots of great tips for small business owners.
Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about that. But before we get into any of that, I think we need to talk about what's going on in Pride of Dakota.
Yeah, we'll just, I guess right now is kind of our downtime as far as the shows and things go. That
means, for those that are listening, I know this staff, that means like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
It's like over the
today,
holiday
actually.
Weekend. Yeah, and guess what? She's working today.
Yeah. So I guess I'll give you guys a quick update. If you have, a phone handy, you can take notes, or if you have a piece of paper, you can write the dates down. And you can also find all of this information on our website, which is www.prideofdakota.com.
Yep.
Or you can go to the North Dakota Department of Agriculture website, which is nd.gov/NDDA.
Yep, and the Facebook page is facebook.com/Pride of Dakota.
Yes, yep, and we're constantly putting information on there about upcoming events. So
yes, you are.
I guess our next event that we have is our annual Pride of Dakota Day up at the State Fair. It's Monday, July 21st. We will be under the big festival tent, and from 11 to 5, you can swing by and shop from different North Dakota companies that have all kinds of neat products to buy. Mm-hmm. And then we will also be doing our $1 lunch from 11 to 1. You can stop by, have a hot dog, some chips, and a carton of milk.
You will
just
not
for $1.
get a better deal this summer, I promise you.
It's awesome. Yep, and the food is all donated by other Pride of Dakota companies. And then at 3 p.m. that day, we'll be having our Coogan contest, which are all made by Pride of Dakota companies. So you can swing by, sample a few different Coogans, and then vote for your favorite. And new this year, we are actually, the Department of Ag is adding in a snack stick contest at 3 p.m. also.
Oh, what?
Like a snack stick, like jerky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking snacks on a stick, because that's kind of, you go to the state fair and you can get everything from walleye on a stick too.
Yep. So kind of like Slim Jim. That's
okay. So anything like in a jerky or
right,
snacks.
but they're all made by North Dakota processing facilities.
And it's a contest?
So, yes. So you can swing by and get a little salty with the sweet and vote for your favorites.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. Should be a good time. And then I guess our next event after that would be our annual Pride of Dakota Day at the Capitol. It'll be Thursday, September 11th. We will have about 50 different Pride of Dakota members' businesses there. You can stop in and see what kind of wonderful things they have to buy. The Capitol always smells wonderful that day.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you literally take up like several levels of
we
the Capitol.
do. We're on the west end of the ground floor, right when you come in the doors. Yep. And then when you just head up the stairs, right in kind of the big foyer area, we're up on the first floor in the Legislative and Memorial Hall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Packed in there.
It is. It's a good time, and the weather's usually nice that time of year. So if you're in the area, stop by. We'll be set up from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day.
If you like to go to the annual holiday showcases where there's hundreds and hundreds of vendors, I call the Pride of Dakota Day kind of like stretching. It's like calisthenics, getting ready. You're practicing for the big event.
It's like a little mini preview. Absolutely. And a lot of times at those events, we have some of our newer members participating. So that's exciting too. You can come in and check out what's new with Pride of Dakota companies. And then after that, we get ready for our Big Six showcases. We are in Dickinson, September 20th and 21st. Williston, October 18th and 19th. Grand Forks, November 8th and 9th. And then we go to Minot for the 15th and 16th.
Yep.
Fargo, the 21st through the 23rd of November. And then we wrap up in Bismarck, December 5th through the 7th.
Well, there is lots of stuff going on. And again, you can find all of this dates and everything like that and details on prideofdakota.com or facebook.com/prideofdakota. When we come back from the break, we will start talking about social media, what it means, what some new things that are happening in the Pride of Dakota world. And you stick right there. And happy 4th of July, by the way.
Right now, 66.
Get the traffic and weather information you need anytime on SuperTalk 1270 and online at supertalk1270.com.
Hey, welcome back to the Free for All Friday program. This is the Pride of Dakota edition. Scott Wild, along with Kelly Wald, Jim Walsh, and this is the 4th of July edition, I guess. It's Kelly and I and Jim in the studio, and today we're going to be talking about social media and kind of what that means for small businesses and Pride of Dakota members. And it's a lot of the questions that we still get to this day from small businesses and Pride of Dakota. Before we jump into the whole meat of what this topic is, let's talk about what Pride of Dakota is doing in some of the updates that are coming up with Pride of Dakota in the social media and online world.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody that knows Scott knows that he is a guru with different online tools and reaching your audiences. And so we are working with you right now on a number of different business development type materials, I guess. So, and we're actually currently working on revamping the Pride of Dakota website, giving it a new face, giving it much greater online functionality for members and for shoppers and for people just interested in learning about the program. And so once that website launches, in the next couple of months here, we will have an entire section on there devoted to business development strictly for members. Right. And that will feature different things like business development podcasts where we interview people who are industry experts on different things from financial aspects to business plans to employees to grants to...
We talked with Bon Wickenheiser with Small Business Development Center. We talked to her about grants. We talked to her about planning and expanding new ideas and how to manage those flows of ideas. We talked with Jared Stober from the Department of Commerce about TEBG grants. It's about the Innovate North Dakota. I mean, there's funding out there right now for small businesses in technology, and a lot of people don't even know about it.
Right, or they don't maybe even understand that they would qualify for this technology grant.
Right. They think they have to be like a web development company,
right, or a
an
computer
IT company.
software.
Absolutely
yes.
not. No, I mean there's lots of opportunities out there. So yeah, we're going to be we're developing this content right now, even though the site's not going to probably launch for, like you said, a couple months.
Right. And then they'll also be able to subscribe to those podcast sessions through iTunes and different things like that, where you can just, or we also air them on URL Radio.
Yep.
So you can tune
been a
in.
great part of you.
Yes.
Yeah, Stacy's a friend of mine too.
Yep.
Wonderful. So you can always access that information. Those podcasts are on twice a day, every day. And then, like I said, through iTunes, you can just tune in. They're short little clips. We just want to be able to really get helpful information in the hands of people who need it.
You know, that's one of the things that that we worked on over the past couple of years, is even taking the website, and we're always trying to say, how do we make this more valuable to the members? And if you are a person who is, has a small business, has an idea, is just getting started, I mean, absolutely take a look at the Pride of Dakota program. If you have a service or a product that is based in North Dakota here, that is made from North Dakota, then you should consider the $50 that it costs for the yearly membership and all of the training and all of the events and then the showcases and everything that you have at your fingertips. This is all available. And so we're always trying to decide, how can we make the content even more valuable and help grow businesses? So that's why we've released what's called the Pride of Dakota Small Business Development Series on the podcast. We still do the features from time to time, but you're right. It's all about, and the new website is even creating more connectivity into the databases that you currently have and then feeding that out to the website. So, which was a huge critical piece of saving your staff time and money, so that you could focus on the important things, like
focus on the companies and helping them get to where they need to go.
Exactly.
Right. And we will be using this show also as an avenue to get industry experts and business owners into the studio, so you can hear from them about, a lot of maybe the hurdles or obstacles that they've overcome, things that maybe you aren't even aware of until you really get knee deep in trying to start your own business.
Exactly. We're going to call them our panel discussions, right? We're going to bring in some of these experts, and we're just going to ask them the questions about how do they get started. I mean, if you want to succeed in small business, what you need to do is find someone that's doing it right, that's been around the block,
been
there, done that, wore the T-shirt, and then ask them questions. And these Pride of Dakota members are so willing to share their knowledge and support each other.
It really is. It's like a big family, really. I mean, once you're in Pride of Dakota, they're so wonderful. You watch them work together, and they create partnerships where they can help each other out, or even just offer different, insight on experiences that maybe they've had that they can help somebody else avoid by saying, I wish I would have done it this way in hindsight, or, maybe try this. This seems like this might work for your business.
Absolutely. Well, so look for those new changes coming up in the Pride of Dakota world. I mean, again, prideofdakota.com is the web address, facebook.com/Pride of Dakota. You're on Twitter @Pride of Dakota. So, if you can remember Pride of Dakota, I think you can find you on
Google it and you'll find us.
On just about every single channel. Speaking of learning from noteworthy members and people who are doing it right, when it comes to social media, I have a couple of companies here listed. Obviously, there's more companies than this doing social media and doing it well, but really these are the 4 that really stand out in my mind as the ones I see the most often, the ones I see engaging, the ones I see doing some pretty incredible things with social media and just are really on top of their game. So, for example, BBT Style, Melissa Ahonen at bbtstyle.com. We've had her on
Yep,
this
she was in
show
just last month.
Yep, and we've had her on a couple times. We've had her on the podcast several times. And really, these are 4 people that I really think you should start following today if you're a small business owner, and just watch what they do, because they get it. Everything that we're going to talk about today, they get it.
They're using it to their advantage. It's not a burden for them.
Yeah, and I actually learned by watching them. It's what I do for a living. So very, very important. So BBT Style, Erica Hager over at Bison Booties, bisonbooties.com, another phenomenal brand.
Yes.
But not just phenomenal brand, the way it looks and and great product, but also the way they engage, the way that they get into the customer experience. This is something that you need to really witness. So there's another example. Carrie Block over at Earthkind. If you just go to earthkind.com, we've had Carrie on the show. All these people have been on the shows and podcasts several times. And they have the Fresh Cab, which is the rodent repellent. They now are releasing a brand new line, which is Stay Away Spiders, Stay Away Moths, Stay Away Ants. So all of these different products they're releasing, you're now witnessing a company that is branching out, that is in a process of expanding. I mean, this was a small,
it was just her when it started, yes.
And basically with an idea, and now she's grown it into this multi-million-dollar global company that is just rocking it, right? Still from North Dakota. So
absolutely. And Pride of Dakota gives her a wonderful, I guess, test market for those new types of different products that she's coming up with.
And she used the showcase in a very effective way recently. She uses her showcase to test the new products and to get customer feedback and stuff. And that's how she launched last December those new products. And it was impressive to watch. And so there's another one, Earthkind. And then also Maple River Winery, Greg Campbell over there. In fact, speaking of the
Greg
devil,
and I have a contest going on about who can get more followers on Facebook.
There you go. That is a tall order right there. But, I was looking at Facebook here, and he actually commented. You had sent out a message here. I'm just trying to find it on my phone here. But you had sent a message about, hey, we're going to be on here talking about social media. And Campbell, of course he posts Scott Wild as a rock star. So I think he's a rock star too. It's a mutual admiration club, right? But the fact that Greg is really in tune with what's going on, but Greg engages with the audience. He's the one, and every time that he posts, it's not always about Maple River Winery.
Right.
He is actually spending more time promoting other people and other things, so that when he does talk about Maple River Winery, people listen, and they know that it's not a braggadocious behavior of me.
Right.
But
there's a genuine conversation going on
He's in
there.
a conversation, and he's letting you know what's going on, and he really does use it well. So there is another. Maple River Winery is a great example of someone that, if you want to watch how to engage people and just how to be a great human being, this is someone that is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
So
he also owns Maple River Distillery too.
Oh, yes.
Uses social media for
got
both of those
strawberry
companies.
rhubarb vodka. And I think that'll even be a part of our celebrations this weekend. A lot of people will be celebrating with his products, and he really truly has built an amazing product. So these are four that to me stand out, and of course there are a million great Pride of Dakota members. Not literally a million, there's 500.
Just over 500.
Just over 500. But I mean, truly, these are the four that I see personally in my stream because of their engagement level.
Yes,
online.
they do a fantastic job.
So let's talk about this is something that I always mention whenever I talk about social media, because it is really one of the core foundations. I get people all the time. It's the difference between traditional and social media. Now, traditional is radio, print, and TV.
Yes.
Social media is your website, it's your blog, Facebook, Twitter, all of that information, right? And I know that people have heard me say, I heard him back in 2008 saying this same thing. Nothing's changed.
Because it hasn't changed.
Why.
Right. There's just more
Exactly.
social media tools that pop up every year, different applications and different programs you can use.
It gets overwhelming. So if you're listening and you're overwhelmed by you just don't have time, you're overwhelmed by the number of options, you are worried about privacy, join the club. You are normal. So basically, the basic difference between traditional and social is your traditional media, your radio, print, TV, it's a monologue. It's a one-to-many communication. It's about getting attention. You have to cut through the clutter. You have to make someone stop fast-forwarding their DVR so that they watch your commercial. It's tough. We inherently avoid being marketed to in this world.
Yes.
So that's why we record our shows and fast forward through commercials stuff. So traditional media is about getting attention. Your social media, your website and all that stuff is not about getting attention. It's about giving attention, right? It's about answering the questions. You start the conversation on your billboard, in your newspaper ad, but there's no way in that 30 seconds or that quarter-page ad that you're going to have enough time to get the message across. So now you need to give them a URL at the bottom and get them over to your site and finish the conversation. Now they can sit there for hours, watch videos, read testimonials, download PDFs,
You've got them just where you want them, where you can give them all of the possible information that they could need.
And another example of traditional media would be the showcases, the annual showcases. So here is someone that, you've got an audience in front of you, but you don't necessarily have time. When you pack the Civic Center with tens of thousands of people and 400 vendors, there's no way that you have time to sit there and answer every question that the people have. So what you're doing is you've got flyers, you've got handouts, you've got business cards, you've got samples that you send with people. You give them a little taste experience. That starts the conversation. But now your stuff needs to get them back to your website where you can finish it and close the deal. You can turn them from being a site visitor into someone who's joined a mailing list, purchased a product.
And becomes a loyal customer and keeps coming back
Exactly.
to you because of the customer experience in addition to the wonderful products that you make.
You become a subject matter expert in their eyes.
Yes.
So when we return, we're going to talk about what is social media and talk about some specific tools that you should be using. You're listening to the Free for All Friday program. This is the Pride of Dakota edition. Be right back.
Right now, 66.
Your news leader, weeknights at 6 and 10. Super Talk 1270.
Hey, thanks for coming back. This is the Free for All Friday program, Pride of Dakota edition. Scott Wild along with Kelly Wald and Jim Walsh. We're talking social media today and really how it pertains to Pride of Dakota and small businesses in general. Lots of questions that we get. You know, you were mentioning something. We were the mics were off, and we were watching Greg Kempel's interactions on Facebook. The guy, you know, you said he's one of the quickest responders. He is, but then what did you mention about that afterwards?
I had said that, you know, it seems like anytime I tweet or post something, he responds like almost instantly. But then when you're standing talking to him, I've never ever seen him like pull out his phone when it goes off and respond to something. So he's actually always, when you're standing there face to face with him, he's engaged with you and actually participating actively in that conversation.
Yes. That's because Greg understands one of the core principles of social media, and that is it's all about going from online to in person. So when you have the person standing in front of you in person, that's the end goal anyways. And so he's definitely a master communicator and a marketer and just really generally connected with his audience. So
Yeah, and it works well. I mean, for a business owner, that's very important.
Yep. So the big question is, what is social media? And social media really, you know, Facebook and Twitter are not social media.
Thank you for saying that,
Yes.
because I think people believe it's the tool that is the social media. But yes, please carry on with the rest of
No, and you're right. So Facebook and Twitter are not the social media. It's what happens on Facebook and Twitter. It's talking. Actually, social media is a verb. Okay, and people all the time they'll come up at the small businesses or Pride of Dakota members and say, "Well, I've got a Facebook. I need help with my Facebook page. I need help with my Twitter account." And I'm thinking right away, why do you need help? Do you have one? Yes. Then okay. Then you don't need help. You just need a change in mindset, because you talking is something we've been doing since
Right.
1 year old. Unless you were an early talker. So it's not a matter. I tell people all the time, you've been doing social media long before social media ever existed. We just gave it a name in 2005, called it social media. Right. But what I tell them is, what would you say to someone if they were standing right in front of you asking the exact same question? I said, would you have any problem? Absolutely not. Yeah, but they're standing in front of me. And they said, well, okay. So if I called you on the phone, you'd be stumbling over your words? Well, no. I said, okay, I'm not standing in front of you, yet you'd have no problem. I said, you have to just treat it like a phone conversation. Like, what would you say to me? And literally type it out in exactly the words. People do not want to be marketed to.
No.
As soon as we sniff marketing, we're out of there.
Right.
We don't want to buy from vending machines. We want to buy from human beings.
Yes, people who are genuinely interested in you and what you need, what you
Exactly.
care about. That
Yep.
it's a conversation.
100%. So it's a verb. So as long as you know that, just talk the way you normally do, and because that's how you establish your business. I said none of us would be employed if we couldn't communicate.
Exactly.
So, most of us anyway. So,
Well, yeah.
so anyways, you've been doing social media for most of your life. So here's 3 questions that, though, when people are planning it out, and I always tell people you need to create a plan for your social media. I call it a blueprint, because you wouldn't build a house without a blueprint. Or
Right.
I've actually ran into one gentleman said he did, and it's like, wow, I really want to know if he was on time, on budget.
Right. Well, and then
all
you
that.
run into the problem where you just said you have this set up and you go, I don't know what to do with it. I need help.
Exactly. So if you plan it out ahead of time, here's the 3 critical questions you need to ask. And if you can answer these 3 questions, your content is set forever on your social media, your web, all of that, social media tools. First of all, you got to know who your audiences are. And it's plural, because you always have more than one audience, right? So you have an audience that might be vendors. You also have an audience as customers. You do not talk to them the same way.
No. And you may have different product lines. Those are also different audiences.
Absolutely. If you're having headbands and then you have something else that you sell besides that, or if you sell jams and jellies and then you sell purses over here on the side, 2 different
Right.
audiences. Know who your audiences are. Then the second question is, what are those specific challenges that those audiences face? What do they ask for? Do they ask questions questions like, I wish I would, or where can I find, or how do I, right?
Right. Or do they make suggestions about a product that you have and how one small tweak could really customize it to fix whatever problem they have?
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, Kelly. Have you ever watched a how-to video on YouTube?
Yes. Many, 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 many of them.
Right. And if you're listening to this, I want you to think, have you ever watched a how-to video on YouTube? And most of us have, right? I learned how to change the oil on my lawnmower on YouTube, right? Or have you ever typed an entire sentence into Google, an entire question
Yes.
into Google? Have you? And then you had something that came back almost a word-for-word match in the description, right?
Yes.
Now, this is someone that when people have how-to videos out there, they have websites that match your question. These are people that have already asked these questions. They know who you were. They knew what your question were because they've been asked that question so many times they want to puke, right?
Right.
And so they literally just create content that answers that for you. So people that have already done that, and when we find those in the search results, it's really compelling. We have to
Yes.
click on it because there's someone going, yes, there's someone who knows
That's
who
exactly
I am.
what
That's
I need
exactly
to
what I
know.
need to know.
Yes.
That's the reaction that we want. So those first two questions help take care of that. And then specifically, the third question is, what do I want you to do specifically on my website? Right? Not when I walk through the door, but specifically online, even at 2 a.m, right? Your website is the staff person that will stay up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never take a day of vacation. It'll work on the 4th of July, and it will never get it wrong if
Right.
you have the right information.
If you're updating your content, that's one thing I see a lot, and even that happens with us sometimes. Is the website? You get so busy with other things, website becomes your last priority almost. I mean, you update all of this other stuff, and you have all these other things going on. But if you think about it, I mean, a large percentage of the time, before people pick up the phone to call you, they're gonna try to find you on the web. I mean,
Exactly.
really, they are. And so when they come to your website and they see information that's old or outdated or not very professional looking, or doesn't really talk to your business and what it can do for that person,
Right.
you're not really giving them a reason to pick up the phone and call you or email you or whatever.
Well, how many Pride of Dakota members have sold something to someone who has never walked through their brick and mortar store? Or how many Pride of Dakota members or small businesses in North Dakota don't have a brick and mortar?
Right.
They're
A lot of
literally
them.
running,
It's
you
out of
know,
their basement or
in fact,
an office room in their house.
Two of the four companies that I mentioned at the beginning, BBT Style and Bison Booties, they don't have a brick and mortar store.
Nope.
They use other retailers to get their products out, but they run those out of their homes, right? So they're all about the online presence. And they are rocking it, not just in North Dakota, but they're rocking it with major celebrities. I mean, these are two companies that have been on Parenthood. They've had products shown on Parenthood and in movies. I think BBT Style's got something coming up in the Pitch Perfect 2 movie.
Oh, yes.
The entire staff, the crew is going to be wearing them. I mean, they've been in The Voice, on NBC's The Voice. And so really by engaging and being there and being available and listening, that's the trick right there. So those are the three questions. You need to know who you're talking to, what's their challenge specifically, and then what do you want them to do? And then you got to ask them to do that.
Right.
So,
That was one
because if
thing
you don't,
that you had mentioned before. So many websites, they take you to a page that it's just filled with links, and there's no information. There's just a hyperlink to another website essentially. And you had said that it was like, somebody asking you a question and you dropping your head and pointing away and saying, just go.
yeah.
Just go over there. I don't have anything to help you.
I don't have any interest in answering your question, and I would like you to go over there and ask them and get your information from them. That's exactly what it's like. But
Right.
yeah.
So if there's content on your website that isn't actually doing anything or asking somebody to do something, get rid of it. It's worthless, and it's taking up space that it doesn't need to.
And especially if you have a page on your website that says under construction or coming soon, take it down.
Take it down.
Because really all you're telling me is that I have absolutely no time or no interest in answering your question right now. So it's about having compelling content that helps educate. And that's really that brings us to the next point, why you must have a blog associated with your website. Now, some have blogs internal into their website. Some have blogs outside of their website. But a blog, first of all, great SEO tool, search engine optimization. Google loves blogs, and they index them regularly because the code is so clean. The other thing is that it can help you establish yourself as a subject matter expert. You can write articles about your product. You can write the how-to article, right?
Right.
Look at how many how-to videos are on YouTube and that sort of stuff. Why don't you consider putting a how-to video on how to use your products and services out there for your customers and for other people looking for it. That's the content you can put inside your blog, because when you help somebody with someone, you become that subject matter expert.
And then they go to you for other questions that maybe aren't even directly related to your product.
Bingo. Absolutely. So, and it also supports all of the learning styles, because you can have them read it. Mm-hmm. I personally learn by listening. So when I read, I'm putting air quotes around the word read, I read 3 or 4 books a month, but I listen to them on audible.com. I download them to my iPhone and I listen to them, because that's how I learn best. And I have windshield time, and I can read while I'm mowing the lawn or doing whatever I'm doing. I'm just kidding. I don't mow the lawn. I have kids for that. So, but whatever tasks I might be doing, I can be listening to something. And in fact, I was reading part of a book on the way over here. So to the studio today, in my car, I plug it into my dashboard, and there, voila. Instead of listening, to something music on my iPhone, I listen to a book. So it hits all the learning styles, and then you can embed a YouTube video and let people watch it. So getting the different, learning styles there as well too. And then mobile friendly. Most blogs have what are called responsive themes, which will automatically pack themselves down into a friendly format for the iPad or for the phone or whatever tablet you might be using. So,
and there's a difference too between, I think people may have misconception about like responsive and not mobile friendly, but that's maybe not the word I want to use, but sites that are responsive actually reformat themselves down into a mobile format. So it doesn't look like your actual website smushed where you have to pinch and scroll and do all that
pinch and
fun
zoom
stuff.
is not mobile friendly. That's a great point. It has to be. I always say you have to be able to surf with just your thumb by scrolling up and down or double clicking on something. So if you have to pinch and zoom, your site is not mobile friendly. You need to have something that packs itself. So that's a great point to bring up. When we come back, we're going to talk about why it is critical that you create an audio podcast in the next 90 days. We'll be right back.
Right Now 66.
Sean Hannity, weekdays at 2, only on SuperTalk 1270.
All right, welcome back to the Free for All Friday program. This is the last segment of our Pride of Dakota edition on this 4th of July. So
Happy Independence Day.
The weather is starting to try and change its attitude.
It looks like it wants to be sunny.
It wants to be sunny. So we'll see what happens there. We've been talking about social media and how it applies to small businesses and even Pride of Dakota members, talking about some of the Pride of Dakota members that we think you should follow. And we just finished up blogs. I know, Jim, you have been updating the 1270 SuperTalk 1270 blog even while we were on the air here. And
on a regular basis, we try to keep that going, especially when you have events like, when the parade was canceled this morning.
Yeah.
We had to get that on there.
The important thing about blogs is that people can subscribe to blogs, and I could subscribe to that RSS and even to specific categories on there. And if I wanted just latest updates, my phone would buzz when you made that update to your website. So blogs are absolutely critical. And WordPress, you use WordPress here at the station.
I believe we do, yes.
Yeah, and that is, to me, if you're going to blog, please be on a WordPress. I've used them all, and it's the number one blogging platform in the world. I highly recommend it. And something that's related to blogs is podcasts, and and specifically an audio podcast. And Jim, you've been in radio for many, many moons.
Many moons.
And here's the reason that I believe that each business needs to consider creating an audio podcast, because first of all, right now on YouTube alone, every single minute, there are 32 hours of video uploaded every minute to YouTube.
That is insane.
That's 1.2 million hours of content a month. And I mean, to watch all of that, I've tried.
Okay.
But it's just impossible, right? But, and there's lots of different things. It's the number 2 search engine on the planet, which is great. But there are millions and millions and millions of participants. Right now in the podcasting world, there's really only a couple 100,000 podcasts out there, which in the grand scheme of things is not that many. So it's, trying to find content in the other avenues and channels, kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. Whereas in the podcast world, it's a little easier to become sort of branded as that expert. And then the audio piece, look at the power of radio. If you're listening to this show right now, you already believe you're probably driving down the road, or you're got your headphones on, walking around the park, or whatever you might be doing, packing the car, packing the cooler to get ready to head out for this long weekend, or You might be sitting, still sitting over waiting for the parade. That's not going to happen to start. You're sitting on the curb listening to the show. So, I mean, I think that's
right. And that is exactly another important point you mentioned. Anything else that you're going to watch or you're going to read, that requires you physically stopping doing anything else, taking whatever device you have and devoting your face to that. I mean, an audio podcast you can listen to when you're in the shower, you can listen to it on your way to work, you can listen to it at work, you can listen to it when you're doing the laundry or cleaning your house or whatever. As long as you have a device that allows you to hear it, you can access it.
In fact, I know that SuperTalk, we take a lot of these shows and they're recorded and they're put online because people can then listen to them when they want and where they want.
Right. We're also going to have them on YouTube, but yes, we've been doing both actually.
Absolutely. But Kelly just hit on a huge, huge piece of it, right? This is why radio has not changed much in its effectiveness over the years, is that it's still truly the medium that doesn't require screen time. I mean, we can literally be out doing other things. We can be going for a walk, whereas if I'm driving my car, or even if I'm walking around the park, I don't want to be staring at my iPad.
I've seen bad things happen when people do that.
Exactly. So
don't be texting either.
Yeah, it's a way for you to get your point across. And there's something that's called the echoic factor, that when someone hears something, they remember it a little longer than when they read it. And that's why when people read something out loud, they will remember it a little longer. So there's that benefit as well, too.
I think one of the things is to keep up with it. Because a lot of people, they have good intentions, they get started, they come out of the chute flying 100 miles an hour, and then they just kind of lose interest.
And that really has to do with passion, Jim.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, people say, well, what should I podcast about? I would absolutely recommend that you only create a podcast on something that you are incredibly passionate about, because that will help avoid what Jim just referred to as pod fading. And that's where people get started. They have, I think the average podcast, they say, dies out after 7 episodes. So maybe for 7 weeks you've got interest, and all of a sudden maybe your listenership isn't there. You're not getting the millions of dollars you thought you would make or the millions of listeners. And so you kind of lose interest, but it takes time for people, even in radio, right? I mean, Jim, it takes education for people to go, oh, I didn't realize this show was on this channel, right?
For a news talk station, they say it takes about 3 years to get really up to speed with the audience.
Sure, absolutely, because it's an education piece. And podcasts are no different. And the thing is, people might find it a specific individual episode based on a Google search, and that's how they discover. Maybe they discover podcast number 35 instead of podcast 1, and they may not ever go back and listen to number 1 because they found so much value in that 35th episode that gives them what they want. And now from then on, you've kind of gained a new loyal audience member.
Right. And that's another great thing with podcasts too, is it's a saved file, so they can access it whenever it's good timing for them. It's not something where it's on this time at this day at this time, and if you miss it, sorry.
Yep.
It's always when it's convenient for them.
And Jim talked about putting their shows on YouTube. And really what we're talking about is you take your audio file and you embed a JPEG, like a 1280 by 720 pixel JPEG with a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, high def. You embed that over top of using any audio or video production program, and now all of a sudden you have this pseudo video where they may be staring at your logo or your contact information. We do that with Pride of Dakota, and it's effective, and people do watch it because they happen to find that stuff in the second largest search engine.
Now, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I wondered about the if there's a problem with just having the one logo, and even though they're listening to what you're talking about, just having to sit there and stare at that one logo for a full hour.
Well, or you can swap it out. You can swap the graphics out from time to time.
Yeah,
so
that's what I try to do.
Logo.
At least every few minutes, have something different there.
So if you do presentations, basically someone could record an audio presentation. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll just go into my podcast studio and I'll speak into the mic for 10, 20 minutes. And then I'll take those PowerPoint slides, export them out of PowerPoint, and just embed them over my audio and just change them at the right intervals. And it's like you're watching a PowerPoint presentation, at an audience, but it's forever. And I can rewind if I miss something. And, it depends on how long the show is. If it's 5-10 minute little segments, but if it's an hour-long show, it wouldn't hurt to swap out the if they're bringing in a guest, then maybe put the guest logo on there, put the guest contact information. So it's not that difficult, and it's like Kelly just said, it's repurposing that same great content for something else. So that's consider at least recording, and there's lots of really inexpensive ways to get started in there. We'll have information over at prideofdakota.com in the Small Business Development Center about podcasts and how to get started with some just really inexpensive equipment, all the way up to the very expensive equipment. But you can go anywhere you want in that range and still get by, and produce a very good podcast. Mm-hmm. But again, being passionate, Jim, I think that is exactly right. You have to stay with it, and you have to stay the course, and put that content out there and give people an opportunity, and then promote it, and repurpose those from time to time. Create your podcast so they're somewhat evergreen and they can be recycled.
And it could be anything. Like, let's say you're interested in electric trains.
Yeah.
You think, well, that's silly. Who else? But somewhere out in the world, there's at least 1,000 other guys who are interested in what you're interested in.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to. That's a great point. And I always tell people, I don't care about your numbers in Facebook and Twitter. I do not care how many followers. I care how many engaged followers. And Jim, you could do more damage with the right 1,000 train enthusiasts than you could with 1 million empty calorie followers, as I call them.
Absolutely.
You can buy followers on different scripts, and they'll say, we'll get you up to 10,000 followers for $19.99. It's like, well, why? I mean,
right. You're not doing anything.
These are all
with
people
them.
that are going to like my Facebook or Twitter page and never come back because they were just prompted to do so, or they don't even realize that they did.
Well, I think it goes back to the radio TV mentality, which was you have to get a lot of people in your given market. Yeah. Like if we were saying we need 10,000 people in Bismarck to listen to the show, then you're starting to think in terms of the lowest common denominator and what all those people have in common. In this case, what you're talking about is finding 1,000 people who like electric trains or whatever you're talking about. And in that case, you're talking worldwide.
Exactly.
Certainly in a world of 7 billion people, you can find 1,000 people who like what you like.
There was an event a few years back that we going on, and we helped coordinate it, and we told them to get on Twitter and tweet throughout the event. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened was, a long story short, is that there were not many people following on Twitter, but someone happened to find this conversation going on, and they came in and offered I think it was up to a $45,000 sponsorship for next year's event.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, you talk about even the right one person following you could be enough,
That's just it.
So it's a matter of don't lose sleep over your numbers. Lose sleep if nobody's
quality,
engaging. Exactly.
Not quantity.
Exactly. So, and a lot of these platforms, one of the points that we were going to talk about today is being mobile. And we've mentioned that earlier. Make sure that what you're doing online, your blog, your podcast, everything, that people can take it with them on mobile devices, because most of the stuff going on is consumed with a phone, now a smartphone or a tablet. Yep. We're not carrying around laptops like we used to.
No.
And we're basically on the go. So we want to consume content wherever we're at. There's a lot that we could talk about, but I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to direct you. We're going to have all of this stuff available, everything we've talked about today, plus hours and hours and hours and hours and hours more, dozens of hours more, on the Pride of Dakota site in the Small Business Development Center. So what we're going to ask you to do is at some point just jump over to prideofdakota.com in the next couple of months. Check out the Small Business Development series that we're going to come up, the podcast. Check out the latest events that are coming up. So we hope you have an amazing 4th of July. Kelly and Jim, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank
it would have been
Scott.
so lonely sitting here all by myself. So I really appreciate you both and what you do for Pride of Dakota and for SuperTalk 1270. Thank you, Town Square Media, for allowing us to get our message out there too. So have a safe and fun 4th of July. You're listening to the Free for All Friday program, Pride of Dakota edition. We'll see you next month.